finish it because there's a little bit more. People are like, how does it get treasure? Okay, so here's what happens, right? Let's say Jesus Christ, Jesus is real, right? And whatever. We're not even gonna get there, right? So Peter, right, is the rock, and like he apparently gets the church, right? So what you're saying is the Jews denied the Messiah, right? The Jews denied the Messiah, the rabbis. So Jesus gives the church to Peter, right? Peter, in the process, because he wants to get rid of Paul and John, because Jesus actually blesses John on the cross, makes John the bloodline of Christ. He makes John the vicar, right? But Peter, in order to get rid of him, makes up the dream about when all the animals come down that you guys need to go and teach it to the Gentiles. But what the dream actually means is what's coming out of your mouth defiles you, Peter, and it might be about in the future it's a future reference to the Vatican and the church. What's coming out of your mouth is what defiles you. It wasn't about going and teaching to the Gentiles. What's coming out of your mouth in the future and what's coming out of your mouth now, Peter, is defiling you because it's lies, right? So at that point, Peter, right, sends Paul and John's actually the blessed one to Asia Minor, to the Gentiles. When Peter does that, right, because Jesus goes to Paul on the road to Damascus, because you got to ask yourself why. Jesus walks with these 12 guys for 3 years, teaches them all the mysteries. If he had taught them all the mysteries, why does he need Paul? Why is Paul even necessary? Why would Paul even be necessary? Let's just say he's got a real. Why would Paul be necessary? He has Peter. He has the apostles. He walked with them. Why would he? Why is Paul necessary? So he sends them to the Gentiles. When he does that, and then Paul goes to Rome, right? He gives the church to the Gentiles. So it goes from the rabbis to Peter. Peter gives the Jewish blessing, gives it away to the Gentiles in the name of Paul and John, even though John already had it, right? When you're like, well, okay, this was the Catholic Church has it. No, because Napoleon is the last Holy Roman Emperor, right? He's the last Holy Roman Emperor. And during the Napoleonic Wars, right, he needs money, and he's good friends with Benjamin Franklin and all the other people who founded the United States, Thomas Jefferson, and they're all buddies. Don't tell me they didn't know that Christianity was made up. But anyways, because he needs this, right? He makes a deal with Alexander Hamilton because he needs money, and he sells the Louisiana Purchase, right? He makes the Louisiana Purchase, right, and sells all that land. When he does that, when Napoleon does that as the Holy Roman Emperor, his last act, he sells the blessing to the United States of America. Because right after that, the Holy Roman Empire falls. The Vatican actually falls after that. That's when the Scorpion Tales begins. The 150 years until I'm born begins right then. You're like, well, how is that possible? Because the Mormons and Joseph Smith get sent out there, and they go and they make New Jerusalem. If you look at like Utah, Nevada, California, Colorado, all that area, it's essentially looks like it's like Israel. Like Lake Tahoe would be like the Sea of Galilee. Utah's all named Jerusalem. It's all named it's the Moab Desert, right? As I walk through the shadow of the valley of death, David's talking about the Mojave Desert and everything that's around Death Valley, because I did that walk all the way around. That's why God sent me to walk all the way around it. I will break the bow of Ephraim, right? He says it in the prophecies. He's talking about the Mormons. because the Mormons claim that they're from the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh. He's not talking about. He's not talking about Israel. Israel isn't the chosen people. I'm Jerusalem. The new Israel's here in America. It's on the West Coast. Like, I don't even know. But this is the formation. If we're going to stick with it, this is the story. As I walk through the shadow of the valley of death, the shadow of the valley of death would be Death Valley. The shadow would be everything around it. It would be the Mojave Desert. The Mojave Desert is the shadow of Death Valley. Everything that's around it as the sun rises and sets, forms the shadow. The shadow goes this way, and then it goes this way. As the sun goes across the land. That's the shadow of the valley of death. I've walked around it. As I walked through the shadow of the valley of death, I walked around it. I did that. This is the psalm. Yeah, I'm the Psalm of David. Right? That's the story. I mean, that's if we're gonna stick with it. That's what I'm saying. Like, I can tell you guys this, whether we stick with Revelations or we get rid of the New Testament or do the hokey pokey, turn yourself around. Yeah, I put the key of Genesis in, the key of the bad house, got the key of Peter in. I mean, whatever you want to do. If we keep the New Testament, okay, I'm God and I'm Christ, because you made me that. Get rid of it. I'm Zechariah. I'm the prophecy of Zechariah 2 in the Old Testament. God's kind of like, he's a mastermind. I just like he's had me go. I've gone. There's a bunch, all that stuff in Revelation. I've had to do that. We've done it. I just haven't talked about it. He took my phone away from me. We didn't make videos when we were doing it. We did all that stuff, the plagues and all that shit. And I'm not going to get into how we did it, but it's been done. Like, that stuff, it's been fulfilled before your eyes. Yeah. Anyway.